Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to present our research title called Exploring Professional Identity Formation Through Critical Incidents. Both of us are from Kimakut University of Technology, Thonburi, Thailand. So, let's start with our outline for today's presentation. First of all, I would like to talk about our research focus. Second, the core concept of our presentation will be presented, which is about actual and designated identity. Third, we will mention about methodology and also analytical steps, and we will end with the results. So, for our research focus, for the reason that we would like to investigate how individuals transformed from actual identity of who they are as a teacher to their designated identity or whom they want to become as teacher. We would like to investigate these things because although it is believed that teacher education program can make a difference in this personal process of forming one's professional identity, there are still a large variability of what individuals view themselves as teachers in a specific context. So we would like to know if our pre-service teachers, who were our participants, form their professional identity in Thai context. Before we start, I would like to define some terms related to this presentation. First, identity. We refer to identity as how people see themselves and how they enact their roles within different settings, because people tend to have so many roles in their lives. In this study, we would like to see how individuals link their teacher's role to their identity. And the second term that need to be clarified is the concept of professional identity. For us, professional identity refers to a concept that teachers find important in their professional work as teachers, or any roles that they think teachers should have. So for professional roles, as I mentioned earlier, that the role is part of identity in our concept, because investigating teachers' perception of roles is useful as it is closely linked to teacher identity, because in order for pre-service teacher to attain the goal of being a good teacher, satisfying their perspectives, they need to maintain the coherence between their identity and their roles of teachers that they expect to be. So they might expect to be one of these roles, and they will try to achieve the roles of the good teacher in their own perspective, which links into our main concept of the paper, actual and designated identity, proposed by Spart and Presup 2005. To them, it seems like professional identity are linked between actual identity of who they are, how they view themselves, to designated identity or who they want to become. And from that transformation, it seems like when people feel that they need to have other kind of identity, there must be some kind of turning point or an event that make them realize that the previous identity they have held is not suitable for their situation. Therefore, in order to examine the cause of each designated identity, we decided to use critical incidents to investigate this shift of identity. means by critical incidents? According to Woods 2012, critical incidents are an unplanned, unanticipated, and uncontrolled events that make a change in people's life. So, in order to get that information, let's move to how we conduct our research. So for our methodology, we have 4 pre-service teachers in these studies. All of them enrolled in the Master of Arts majoring in English language teaching, which required them to engage in a 15-week teaching practicum in a high school. This requirement is geared to help prepare students' teachers for the realities of teaching in an authentic school context. So, we decided to use that time to collect the data because it was the first time when our pre-service tried to become teacher. So the period that we collected the data was during May to September 2013. And all of our pre-service teachers been placed in the same context. The school where the participants did the practicum is the medium-sized school, operating from grade 7 to 12. And they all were responsible for teaching grade 10 students in the class called Fundamental English, which aimed to equip students with basic English skills. All pre-service teachers need to prepare the lesson to engage students in various activities, including drills, lectures, practices, games, and role plays. And they have their supervisors observe them by that time and give them feedback afterwards. For our data collection, we use semi-structured interview. A series of interviews were conducted once a week over 15-week practicum. So that means we had altogether 15 transcriptions for each participant. The questions were developed from the participants' written reflection on the classroom practice, which suggests understanding of teaching profession. After obtaining the permission, we arranged the place of meeting, and in each interview, we have the adaptation of questions in order to probe for more information and to catch up on previous interview. And then afterwards, after we transcribe the data, we come up with steps, analytical steps. First, we start with creating the list of roles. We divided the 15-week into 3 periods, as you can see. The first period is the first 3 periods, where they first adjust themselves to the new environment. And for the second period, were the periods that starting from 4 to period 12, which they strive to grow their professional identity and improve their skills as educators. And the last period was a reflecting time for them to have opportunity to rethink about their experiences. So we were looking at how they mentioned about their roles, starting from actual identity until the designated identity or the people who they want to become, and including with the factors what make them want to become that kind of teacher. So let's move to step 2. How we analyze or recognizing professional identity development. We start by looking at their actual identity or the states of affairs. When the participants tell us story in present tense, such as, I think I am. For example, in this transcription, you see that the participants say, I think I am too strict with them. So that's what we counted as actual identity, or who they are, how they view themselves. For these designated ones, we recognize them by the words that show which obligation or future commitment, such as I think I want to become, or I think teacher should be. And then after that, we examining the critical incidents or the reason why they would like to process new designated identity. For example, we are going to use one participant as the example for this presentation. For the first participant, or Mina, her pseudonym is Mina. She viewed her actual identity as strict teacher, or the role of the controller, which she would like to process the role of nurturer, or the teacher who care and to allow freedom for a short time. And then afterwards, she changed herself back to controller again because of this critical incident. She said she has to become strict again because if she was kind to them, they lost their discipline and the classroom become chaos. So that is the changing events that make herself bring her back to the actual identity of being a controller. So for this particular person, we can see that the circle there is her actual identity, and the triangle represents the designated identity. For Mina, our example for the results section, she starts with being the controller, and she would like to become the nurturer who build rapport and being nice, being kind to the students because of the critical incident. When she observed the students, when the students stopped talking to her, she felt like she need to change into kinder teacher. And from that critical incident, when she moved to period 2 of practicum, again, she's still being a little controller who tried to control the class, but at the same time, she can process the role of nurturer because she allowed freedom. And there were also some new designated identity, a problem solver and the prompter happens because the problems always occurred with the classroom facilities, which do not allow her to use any kind of technology to help the students' understanding. So it led to a new role of prompter, where she needs to let the students create the work by themselves independently and creatively. When she approached the last period of practicum, again, she still carry out her actual identity as a controller, and she still wanted to become a problem solver because this designated identity is not yet accomplished in her idea. So again, when we recognize professional identity development, as I mentioned in step 2, we look at the critical incident. You see, at first, she started with, she thinks that she's too strict, she would like to change. And after the change, again, another critical incident led her to come back to be a controller when she mentioned that, I think I become a strict teacher with them again. Because I am very kind to them, it makes them lose their discipline. They start talking. So this is the example of how we recognize the pre-service teacher professional identity through critical incident. And what do we get from that? I think the usefulness of this study allows the researcher to deepen their understandings of the process of becoming teacher. It also allowed the research to bring the hidden assumption about teaching to the conscious level, because it seems like when they reflect, when they talk about who they are, who they would like to become as a teacher, they also realize about their own belief and become aware of what kind of teacher that they think it is good for their context. So, thank you very much for today.